It's no secret that starting a business is hard. Even if you have an amazing idea, bringing it to life can feel overwhelming. With HubSpot's new entrepreneurship kit, though, you can go from idea to IPO with the help of a company that knows a thing or two about growing better. The all-inclusive kit gives you step-by-step guidance and frameworks to help you crush every stage of starting a business, with tools tailored to help all along the entrepreneurial journey. It's packed with templates for project management, email, and skill development. Wow, that's a lot of templates. There's also a solopreneur guide. It's got freelance pricing worksheets and lots more you can get up and running immediately. And best of all, it's free. With expert guidance and frameworks from HubSpot, starting a business doesn't have to be so hard. So don't wait to start yours. Go to HubSpot.com/ENT to download the guide right now. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Wednesday, August 21st. I'm John Weigell here with Ben Berkley, and this is the Hustle Daily Show. In a follow-up to a story we covered in January about Swedish candy going viral in the US, today we're examining how this trend just has not at all slowed down. In fact, it continues to squeeze global supply chains all year as more TikTok influencers flock to stores like Bonbon in search of little Swedish delights. So how badly is the supply chain feeling right now? And is TikTok fame for your product a gift or is it kind of a curse? We'll get to that in a bit, but first let's give you the hits and headlines in business and tech. Starting off today, following backlash, Disney abandoned its claims that a wrongful death suit shouldn't go to court because the plaintiff once signed up for a Disney Plus trial. Ben, thoughts on this potential trial?
You know, John, this right here is a lesson in choosing your battles, and Disney was very wise to let this one go. It was not a good look, and now they can just go act like a normal company, go reach a big settlement, and then pay for that settlement by spitefully adding another 50 cents to everyone's Disney Plus subscriptions.
Yeah.
This is the way it should be. It should have been this way all along. And so now we are headed in that direction, I would assume.
Yeah.
I mean, it's happening anyway. It's just a matter of when.
Next, Alaska Airlines and Hawaiian Airlines' $1.9 billion merger cleared the U.S. Department of Justice as its regulatory review period expired. It will now move to the Department of Transportation for further review. And speaking of the Department of Justice, 39 states and Washington, D.C. have now signed on to its lawsuit against Live Nation Ticketmaster, alleging it runs a monopoly on ticket sales and venue bookings. Finally, we are approaching a little more justice, right?
Yeah, and I feel like we obviously live in these hyper-partisan and divided times, and Ticketmaster is the great unifier.
It really is.
You know, they've spent decades making everyone hate them, and it's to the point where it is politically popular for attorneys general in red states and blue states alike to go after them hard. I guess if anyone at Ticketmaster is feeling really confident that they're going to win this in the end, I admire their confidence.
I also do admire their confidence and their ability to turn everybody against them. Truly an impressive feat that we haven't seen in some time. And from Ticketmaster, we go to Best Buy. Best Buy is launching an AI-powered real-time tracking service for large deliveries and at-home installations. How nice. And finally, Beyonce Knowles Carter is partnering with Moet Hennessy on a new whiskey, Sir Davis. The whiskey is $89 a bottle, pretty nicely priced, and is named after the singer's great-grandfather. So, Ben, what do you think about this new celebrity whiskey? A lot of celebrity alcohol being put out the past few years.
Yeah, it's endless. I think that this market is so oversaturated. I suppose Beyonce, she's her own thing. She can just do whatever she wants and it will sell. So I suppose this one specifically just exists on an island. But like, do we really need more of these celebrity-backed alcohol brands? Off the top of my head, I'll try to one breath it how many I can come up with. Ryan Reynolds, Blake Lively, The Rock, George Clooney, Matthew McConaughey, Robert De Niro, J-Lo, Bryan Cranston, Aaron Paul, Jason Momoa, Dan Aykroyd with some of the Jenners or whatever. But it's just, I need to breathe. But there are just so many of these. And can these really all last? I guess it doesn't really matter if they're just making a quick buck.
It seems like they're all doing quite well. And that's why these companies keep looking to celebrities to advertise their products and join with them on these products. Like, for example, The Rock's tequila, still doing great numbers. George Clooney, still doing good numbers on his tequila as well. So, I mean, There is something to be said about it, but yeah, I do understand that the oversaturation is getting to that point, and charging $89 for a bottle of whiskey. I mean, you just got to be a smart consumer. If you really want Beyonce's whiskey, you're going to buy Beyonce's whiskey. But if you want whiskey, you could just go with a $40 bottle.
Amen.
All right, on to the main story today. We're back in Candyland with the continuation of a story about a viral Swedish candy or assortment of viral Swedish candies. As with any fad, you would think it would die out in a couple of months or so, kind of like celebrity alcohol. But candies from companies like Bon Bon have continued to catch the eye of TikTok influencers all year round, so much that supply chain issues are constant. So Ben, can you refresh us about how this entire Swedish candy trend began?
Yes. So back in January, there was a TikTok influencer who posted about Swedish candy. I would just say, as candy goes, these are high quality candies.
Sure.
Of course, Sean, we know that all candy is quality, but these gummies feel really premium.
Okay.
But what happened after that influencer posted something was what she described 2 weeks later at that store. Candy store, a mob scene. And this has just been persisting throughout the year, where we now have like 120 million videos about Swedish candy on TikTok. Like, this thing is just out of control. People are going nuts for the Swedish candies.
Yeah, it's really spiraled since that time, because myself and Sarah had a chat about this early in January, February this year, talking about the virality of it and, you know, how big it was and how companies like the one mentioned, Bon Bon, are doing really well, like huge sales, and to the point where they're having problems keeping up with those sales at their offices. But we did not think that it would continue for this long, and it really, really has. Since that one video from Mary Grace Graves, the creator, it's really blown up. As you mentioned, 120 million videos in a specific category on TikTok for Swedish candy reviews, and things like candy salad that we talked about a few months ago becoming a big trend as well. We just didn't think that it would have the life that it's had, especially for the past 5 or 6 months. But back to now, how are these companies doing right now, these candy companies?
They are trying so hard to keep up with this. So just to put in perspective how much they're growing. So Bon Bon, which is one of the kind of premier brands in this space, since January, their daily orders, they're just like 15x their typical volume. They're hiring by the dozens just to try to keep up with this. A lot of other companies are kind of in the same bind, and you're starting to see warnings on websites of 12-day shipping delays, and the preference is to save money on shipping by sea. They're in it now. They have to airship everything, like hundreds of thousands of pounds of candy out of Sweden into, I guess, probably primarily the States at this point. But it is tough to produce at this scale.
Yeah, I never thought the candy supply chain would be in such dire straits as it is, considering that we've had limitless amounts of candy for a long time. But a lot of this candy, I guess the main point is, comes from Sweden directly. And they have to ship all this candy. They have to pay for all of those flights with hundreds of thousands of pounds of candy sitting on board, which is so crazy. And even in the past half a year, these companies have had all of these orders pile up, and they still cannot really meet them. Even some suppliers are not able to ship internationally anymore.
Yeah, there's some that are just not taking new customers now. Like, they just can't. They're trying to figure out, can we build a plant in the US just to keep up with this demand? And I think that this is, definitely the thing that we had talked about up top is, like, there is this hard part of going extremely viral as a business. It's not a dark side per se, because business is booming, but it's this remarkable challenge where, demand outstrips your staffing, your production, your shipping capabilities. We've seen really big companies like Stanley, Starbucks, Trader Joe's, all of them have had products that just went nuclear on TikTok, and they really struggled to, manage the spikes in interest that came along with it.
Yeah, meeting the demand has become kind of a big hurdle for a lot of these companies. Like, I remember earlier this year, mango gummies from Walgreens, like the Nice brand gummies, went viral, and the company had to limit purchases to 1 per visit or something. So a lot of these companies are having trouble meeting that demand. I mean, it doesn't necessarily make me feel bad for them, but it is just a very interesting problem, I guess, to have, of not being able to meet a demand of something that you are known for and your company makes, but now it's just grown to a proportion that you had never conceived it would.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's that thing of like most business owners, they would be thrilled to be in this position, but you have to acknowledge it's still hugely disruptive. It vastly changes a company's trajectory. They're clearly in the mode where they're trying to scale up, but they also have to do this with an eye toward, will it sustain? And I think, these trends are so often fleeting. They come out of nowhere, and are they going to stick, or are they going to be gone in a month? And, it seems like this one has some staying power. It's sustained all year so far, rather than that kind of like 1 month spike. So these companies are starting to feel like maybe this is going to maintain, but that's a really tough bet to make.
Sure.
You're going to be spending a lot of money trying to get ready for something that may just dissipate really quickly.
Yeah. And that's the situation they're all in. But as far as we know, though, none of them have to really spend on marketing. So I guess that's a good thing.
That's true. I mean, there's also something so interesting about these specific companies. They're profiting from this like insatiable desire for candy. But until recently, many of them really only existed in that like hyper-specific Swedish market, where by tradition, their businesses were kind of capped in how much they could grow. Mm-hmm. If we want to remind our listeners about what's going on there, this whole craze came from a really like kind of charming place.
Yeah.
So for those who don't remember, this was in the 1950s. Swedish doctors, they started pushing for children's sugar intake to be limited to fight back against tooth decay. And they're like, just do it once a week. And so they created this longstanding tradition of parents taking their kids to candy shops every Saturday. And Saturday candy was the candy. And so, now it's every day, everywhere across the globe. And again, it's a good problem to have if you like money, as most businesses do. But that transition's got to be so dizzying for them. And clearly we're seeing that, in just keeping up with supply.
Yeah, and those Saturdays in Sweden have become every day in America, as we do. All right, and that's going to do it for us today. Thanks for tuning into the Hustle Daily Show. We're a proud part of the HubSpot Podcast Network. Our editor today is Robert Hartwig, and our executive producer is Darren Clark. We've got a lot more tech and business coverage in our newsletter. If you're not subscribed, go get yourself signed up at thehustle.co/email, and we'll see you tomorrow. Hey, everybody. I've been listening to this awesome podcast lately called Entrepreneurs on Fire. It's hosted by John Lee Dumas, and it's available right now on the HubSpot Podcast Network. Entrepreneurs on Fire stokes inspiration and shares strategies to fire up your entrepreneurial journey and create the life that you've always dreamed of. It offers lots of energy, value, consistency, and it's for anybody who wants to learn more about entrepreneurship. It's super fast-paced and packed with valuable stories about entrepreneurs, their aha moments, their failures, and everything to what's working for them today. Recently, he had on this guest, Ashley Stahl, who talked all about her job at the Pentagon and how she evolved into becoming a top 100 TEDx speaker. She talks about evolving your brand from the ground up, leaning into the skills that you already have to build your brand, and also creating virality. It's a great listen. You should check it out. And you can listen to Entrepreneurs on Fire wherever you get your podcasts.